Alan here, Solid Rock Bible class. Hey, still working on that character traits of Jesus. We're going to be there for a while. I have quite a list that I'm working off of here. But today we're working on the word discreet. So discreet is forming sound opinions, giving serious attention to thought, to what one is doing, especially to details. First of all, let's look in the book of Psalms, the 112th division, verse number 5. I'm going to read this in the King James Version, then I'm going to go over to the English Standard Version, and I'm going to do that in a couple of places here. It says, "A good man showeth favor and lendeth. He will guide his affairs with discretion." So let's look at what Psalms 112, verse 5 here says. "It is well with a man who deals generously and lends, who conducts his affairs with justice." See then, and then in the book of Ephesians, the 5th chapter, in verse 15, it says, "See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise." So let's kick over that. The word circumspectly kind of always gets us. So I do want to read that in the English Standard Version also. "Look carefully then at how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise." So we're talking about a person, this word discretion, it's a person that walks with integrity. The word integrity it's actually never found in the New Testament. It is found in the Old Testament. King James Version, something like 16 times, I believe, if I counted it right. But of course, integrity is one of those things, it's a very subjective word. We have to be kind of careful how that we use this word here, and how we use the word integrity. Everyone falls short, see, of the integrity test. You say, well, what's the integrity test? You know, and I can run through a bunch of things. I'm going to run through a few things here just for fun, just for a second. Telling the truth, your family life, keeping your word, doing what you said you would do, being prompt, being on time, managing your money, paying your bills, spending responsibly, giving your company this good, honest day's work, sharing credit with people when it should be, then part of the work is theirs. We can look at what websites do we look at and surf. What do we watch on TV? What's our vocabulary look like? Do we gossip? Are we generous? Do we give? Do we help others? Do we manage our emotions, our anger, our envy, our pride, our bitterness? Do we manage all of that? Do we pray? Do we read our Bible? And I could just keep going on and on. But sometimes we grade people differently than we grade ourselves. And we shouldn't. Understand that integrity involves every single avenue of our life, not just areas that we're good at. That's the way we seem to judge other people. When we're good at something and they're bad at something, it's fun to judge people then, isn't it? So in every area, as we look at the word integrity, every single one of us can get better at it. So, and by the way, it's just not too late. I don't care how old you are. It's not too late to change that in our life. I'm going to look at Psalms 112th division here, and I'm going to take and read through it, and then we're going to kind of break it down here. In Psalms 112, excuse me, picking up in verse number 1. "Praise ye the Lord. Blessed is the man that feareth the Lord, that delighteth greatly in his commandments. His seed shall be mighty upon the earth. The generations of the upright shall be blessed. Wealth and riches shall be in his house, and his righteousness endureth forever." Verse 4, "Unto the unrighteous there arises light in the darkness. He is gracious and full of compassion and righteous." Back to verse 5 that we read earlier. "A man showeth favor and lendeth. He will guide his affairs with discretion. Surely he shall not be moved forever. The righteous shall be the everlasting remembrance. He shall not be afraid of evil tidings. His heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord. The heart is established. He shall not be afraid until he see the desires of his enemies. He hath dispersed, and that word is talking about here being discreet. He's given to the poor. His righteous endureth forever. His horn shall be extended with honor. Verse number 10. The wicked shall see it and be grieved. He shall gnash with his teeth and melt away. The desire of the wicked shall perish. So as we kind of look back, we're going to take and start kind of tearing apart Psalms 112. So where do we start here, I guess? I guess we can start with verse 1 is probably our best way to start here with it. And he says, praise ye the Lord. Blessed is that man that feareth the Lord, that delighteth greatly in his commandments. So we read a number of things here in the Bible where, we're supposed to fear the Lord. And we need to understand what this means. To fear the Lord is not to be afraid. That's not what we're talking about. The Lord is going to take and send, he's not going to take and send this giant bolt of lightning, to zap you. The point of fearing the Lord is to have a reverence, an awe, a godly fear. So integrity takes, and it brings with it this proclaiming that you're not God. I think all of us, if we're not careful, we get a little God syndrome. And we got to be careful. We're not God. It's looking at God and having this deep, deep respect of God. It's knowing that the world does not revolve around you. It doesn't revolve around me. And it's admitting that we need God. Admitting we need God. It's also, making a point of having a relationship with God. Not just something that we say, but something we actually do. So you can't reverence God and not have a relationship with him. So remember, integrity means to be whole, united, unimpaired, undivided. Which means that when people look at you and when they look at me, they are seeing the one who is above. They're seeing Jesus. They're seeing God being reflected through our life. They're not really seeing us. It's really talking about a person who knows the difference between right and wrong and then does what's right. So, you can't be this person of integrity if you don't follow God's commandments. A person of integrity desires to be obedient to God. A person who doesn't have integrity doesn't care about God. In fact, he doesn't fear God, like we've been talking about. Why would you fear God if you don't believe in God? So if you don't believe in God, then you don't fear God. So we need to take, and we shouldn't loathe God's commandments. We should find them enjoyable. We shouldn't say, that's stupid, We should take and listen to God's commandments he's given to us. He's given them to us for a reason. So being this person of integrity means that you need to take and fear God and know his commandments. It's really starting with those basics. It's loving God with our heart, with our spirit, with our body. It's loving our neighbor as ourselves. And who's our neighbor? We find out as we read in the scriptures that basically it's everybody we come in contact with. And so that's kind of the sum of it. So let's keep going here. And I want us to look at verses 3 and 4 here just a little bit. But let's look at verse 4 here. It says, "And to the upright there arises light in the darkness." He's gracious. He's full of compassion and righteous. So he's got three different things here he's going to talk to us about. He's saying gracious, compassionate, and righteous. So this word gracious, it's really a word it's describing God, isn't it? Do you know anybody any more gracious than what God has done for us in our lives? What he took and he gave his son on the cross for us. Do we really know anybody else that's more gracious than God? So we need to be a person that is gracious. So when you're gracious, you're able to take and you can take and extend compliments to people. You're nice to people. You encourage people. You're an encourager. You want people around you to succeed. A person of integrity is not just a critic. And a person of integrity also is going to be compassionate. So we're gracious, we're compassionate as we talk here. It means that we take and we sit with a person when they're hurting. You don't solve their problems. Rarely do you. But you walk with them. You put your arm around them. A person with integrity, and then it also says is a person that's righteous. That's right living. Doing the right thing. Living by God's word. Trying to reflect Jesus in everything we do. So I guess kind of another way to put righteous is a person that's upright. So when you seek to do right, you pay your bills, you keep your promises, and all those other things that we just talked about. We don't take and have our little pet sins that we keep in our pocket all the time. The psalmist, as he goes on here, in verse 5, which we've already read, "A good man showeth favor and lendeth. He will guide his affairs with discretion." Then look in verse number 9. We'll jump down to verse 9 here for a second. "He is dispersed. He hath given to the poor. His righteousness endureth forever. His horn shall be established with honor." A person of integrity is generous. Doesn't always mean just with our money, but a person of integrity is to be generous, to give to those that are in need. Sometimes it's just giving respect to that person. You know, sometimes we don't even know what people need. We just know they need something. I've kind of got into a habit. I do something, and I've kind of got to get back to it now that we're back doing a little bit of restaurant stuff. Still being pretty careful there, but as we kind of get back to this restaurant thing, I was doing something prior, and many times with a waitress, I will leave the tip and I'll put it in a little Gideon Bible, and I will take and leave my tip there. I did that a while back, a few years ago, at this point, back before the pandemic, and we was sitting at the Lorraine's coffee shop. Some of you know where that's at downtown, and I put the tip in the Bible, and we left. It's a place we like to eat at occasionally, and came back maybe a couple of weeks later, and that waitress grabbed us and told us just how much that meant. Didn't have any idea the needs that were in her life, but she kind of opened up about her and her brother and some of the needs that they had. But we need to be generous. And by the way, you know, when somebody is waiting on us at a restaurant, they deserve a decent tip. especially when they went way out of their way for us. Sometimes, as I say, we never see their need. Sometimes we do, and we need to take and walk with those people. We need to see the need at every opportunity. We need to ask God to open our eyes to those needs. So you have to use wisdom, and you have to use discernment here, discretion, and you've got to be careful, because you can get kind of trapped here if you're not careful in this giving. I'm talking about every little panhandler that's out there on the street corner wanting money for his weed or whatever the case may be. So the Bible talks about a person that gives and gives, plenty. It gives freely, I guess you could say, is what he says here. A person of integrity takes and conducts their affairs with justice. If we are going to be a person of integrity, we have to be a person that takes and conducts our affairs, with justice. Knowing what's fair. Knowing what's fair. It comes from back in the very first verse we looked at about God's commandments. We should know that something is not fair. And when something is not fair, we need to take and address it. I'm sure you've seen, situations where that people that have power, they don't mind hurting people. They don't mind hurting others. Why? Just because they have the power to do it. It was something about Jesus that we look at, how he was meek. He had power. But guess what? He chose not to use it. Remember, Jesus was God. So a person of integrity here does all things in the spirit of fair-mindedness, doing it with justice. So what's that mean? It means not being partial. It means being objective. So what's the payoff? You say, if I got power, I should be able to use it. Well, the payoff is that we have integrity. Why do we want integrity? Why do we want integrity? We've got this cutthroat, crazy world that we live in. This selfish world that we live in. Why have integrity? As we've looked in Psalms 12, it's because it matters. It's God's call to you, and it's God's call to myself to take and show the world Jesus Christ and show it through our lives. Let me read down through the last of this. Surely he shall not be moved forever. The righteous shall be in everlasting remembrance. He shall not be afraid of evil things. His heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord. His heart is established. He shall not be afraid until he see his desires upon his enemies. He hath dispressed. He is given to the poor. His righteousness endureth forever. His horn shall be established with honor. Verse number 10. The wicked shall see it and be grieved. He shall gnash with his teeth and melt away. The desire of the wicked shall perish. So let's kind of look at this. Do you hear what he's saying here? The righteous, the person with integrity, they're not going to be moved. They're going to be remembered forever. The person of integrity, they're not afraid of bad news. Why? Because their heart is firm, it's trusting in God. Their heart is steady. Not afraid of uncertain times. You know, this is kind of one of those times that it's uncertain in our lives. So many things are uncertain in our lives right now. And it says the righteousness, it's going to last forever. And then he talks about this horn of oil. I mean, that's some pretty good stuff here to hold on to for a person of integrity. Remember how verse 1 started out? Praise ye the Lord. Blessed is the man that feareth the Lord, that delighteth greatly in his commandments. So kind of as we wrap this up and really think about this, we want to experience this power and this presence of God in our lives. We want to seek this honor and this glory of God. How do we do that? We do that with being discreet, a person of integrity. Think about it. When others look at you, what kind of a person are they looking at? That's the thought I'm going to leave you with. This is Alan, and I will catch up with you on the next segment.